So what do you need to do in order to stand out in business? And is standing out in business really profitable? Find out now on this episode of the Unlock Success Podcast.
This is the Unlock Success Podcast. We're helping entrepreneurs around the world dive deep into the keys you need to shatter excuses, believe in yourself, and help you achieve your highest goals. Here's your host, 8-figure entrepreneur and the living legend of internet marketing, Anthony Morrison.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Anthony Morrison here, and welcome to another episode of our Unlock Success Podcast. And today on the show, I want to talk to you about the power of standing out in your business, even if it's just a small thing. Because what may seem so insignificant could turn out to be the reason that your business explodes because you're offering something that nobody else is offering, right? Or you're reaching people in a way that nobody else is reaching them. A great example of this are e-com stores. Look, everybody knows that you can't beat Amazon's shipping speed or their super low prices, right? Yet e-com stores are still crushing it online right now. So why is that? Well, I can't speak for all of them, but I know that the ones who are successful are finding something different, even if it's a small thing that a customer just can't get on Amazon. And I'm telling you now that no matter what business you're in, the world is just so connected these days that you're always going to need to find a way to stand out. And here's how I did this about 15 years ago with one of my very first businesses. So obviously, the first thing we need to put in context is why I needed to start my first business. My dad had invested his life savings in WorldCom. And WorldCom was a stock, it was a telecommunication company. It was actually a local company, right? Which was crazy. It was a local company to Mississippi, and he invested his life savings in there in his mid 60s, and they went bankrupt, and he lost his whole. He lost everything. He lost all of his money. He lost his whole retirement. All was in WorldCom, and it was a devastating time for our family. And so I started looking for, what can I do? How can I help my dad? What can I do? How can I help them stay in their house? You know, just the basics, just to pay for their house payment, keep my sister in school, keep myself in school for that matter. I was going to medical school at the time, or preparing to go to medical school, and so was in a really expensive college at the time. And so I started my first business, and my business idea was coolblueperformance.com. This doesn't exist anymore, but it was selling car parts. Now, while selling car parts isn't incredibly original, what I did was I scoured the internet to try to find the one thing that could help me stand out. What was going to help me be different from everybody else that was selling the same car parts? And I soon found out that just by being open 24 hours a day, that was enough to lock in business that others missed out on by 5 p.m. Now, if you think about this, it was really interesting. I thought about my market. I thought about, okay, I was actually selling car parts just for Ford Mustangs, by the way. So niched down, just Ford Mustangs. I had a Ford Mustang. I knew the industry, but I also knew who owned them. It was, blue collar workers. It was people with a 9-to-5 job that own these. We're not talking about a Ferrari that's $400,000 where, maybe the person that owns it's just, doesn't have to work, right? Like, these were awesome cars that people were willing to put their whole paycheck into in order to soup them up and customize them and make them faster and all of these things. And so when I started thinking about it, I was like, man, I bet you that these people, when they get off work, they have nobody to talk to about buying a car part. They want a supercharger. They want new wheels. They want a mass air meter, all these things. But everybody closes because everybody closes at 5 o'clock. So I knew that there was an opportunity to stand out. I also knew, and this was back in the day, that buying something expensive like that on the internet didn't really make a lot of sense. Most people, when they bought something expensive like that online, they picked up the phone and they called first, like, hey, excuse me, I just want to make sure you're a real business, right? It wasn't like it is today, where buying on the internet is just the norm. Back then, it was the new thing. It was the abnormal thing to do. And so before you keyed your credit card in on our website, people would call us and say, hey, just want to check if this is still available. I'm like, well, it says it's available on the website. Well, we wanted to make sure, they're checking you out. So what I knew was, if people closed at 5 o'clock, the people that were going to buy these car parts weren't people that were just going to buy them off of a website without making a phone call. And so I combined the two. I had the website, but I had a 24-hour phone line. And that 24-hour phone line stood out. The word started to spread. Somebody gets off of work at 6 o'clock. They can make a phone call and get somebody on the phone and they can buy this thing that they want. And what do you think they do? They tell their buddies and their buddies tell their buddies and their buddies tell their buddies. And before you know it, we're the ones that are open all the time. We're the ones that you go to. Now, the downside of this, hard work. The thing that helps you stand out may not be easy, right? It might require a lot of hard work to get it off the ground. But at the end of the day, nobody said success comes with no hard work. I hear people tell you all the time, don't work hard, work smart. I always think to myself, like, really? Mark Zuckerberg is really smart. He's worked smart. But do you think he hasn't worked hard too? Do you think that he has not worked hard? Jeff Bezos, very smart, works very smart. Do you think he doesn't work hard? Do you think he doesn't spend a lot of time working? Bill Gates, super smart. But do you think when he was building Microsoft, he didn't work hard? Or do you think he maybe combined working smarter and working harder? You see, standing out in business means doing what other people are not willing to do, right? And oftentimes, that is working harder. Because we live in a society, we live in a world where we want everything handed to us. We're as lazy as we are possibly able to get away with, right? We are encouraged to be lazy by the people around us and the society around us. We are programmed from almost birth that our weekends should be our time to play, right? And from 5 o'clock until whenever you go to sleep is also your time. We are programmed that we are only supposed to work towards our future goals, towards the things that we want, towards the financial success that we desire from 9 to 5, right? And so when you want to stand out in business, what you do is you buck that trend. You do what other people are programmed to do, and you do the opposite of that, right? They're programmed to stop working at 5, you keep working till 8. They're programmed to not work on Saturdays and Sundays, you do it anyway. Because the truth of success is that if you want to stand out in business, you're going to be the person that thinks a little differently and puts in the hard work and the smart work. So, no matter what industry you're in right now, no matter what business you're doing right now, think a little differently. What can you do to stand out in your industry? What can you do to make your business different and stand out from all the others that are just like it? And does it require a little work? Does it require working harder and working smarter? If it does, you got to be willing to put that time and effort in. You got to be willing to work harder and smarter, and of course, think a little bit different. You'll stand out. When you stand out, you'll excel. When you excel, you're going to experience growth. When you experience growth, obviously, you're going to make more money. And that's exactly what happened with me. Within just a few years, my business absolutely blew up. We were doing $300,000 to $350,000 a month in sales of car parts for one specific car, and only a few year models as well. Like massive amount of revenue. Other businesses that came in, they tried to undercut us in prices. They went out of business. Why? They weren't willing to work harder. They weren't working smarter. They just thought, hey, look, I'll just sell cheaper and people will buy from me. No, it's not how it works. It's not always about the price, right? So we watched business after business after business go out of business, fail. We succeeded, we grew. And the reason we did that was we stood out. So hopefully this has given you some insight. Hopefully you can take this message and you can apply it to your business and to anything that you're doing as an entrepreneur. Stand out from the crowd, think a little differently, work harder and work smarter. And of course, that is my formula anyway to helping our business grow, helping our business scale, and ultimately winning in every single industry that we go into. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Unlock Success Podcast, and I look forward to having you with us again next week.